Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. It's great to see a familiar room today. Since we have no new members joining today's PSCC session, we're going to skip the verbal round robin just to save a little bit of time. However, do please drop your name and discipline that you're representing in the chat, so we'll have a roll call for the record. While you are doing that, I'll briefly walk us through the plan for the morning. We'll start off with the state architect kickoff with Ida Claire, and Diane Gold will introduce our new supervising structural engineer, Tim Pyland, and we'll also have general DSA staff introductions. Next, we have a full slate of program updates covering everything from the code update schedule to hazard mitigation grant programs. And after program updates, we'll do a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll move into member-initiated issues in an open discussion. With that, I'll hand it over to Ida for the kickoff, and thank you so much.
Thanks to all of you for taking time out of your day today to join us for the PSCC. We like to meet at least twice a year just to touch base, address in a more intimate group issues that you've heard or may have experienced with DSA, and see if we can, talk through some of those. And just to give you updates of some items that are upcoming and planned, and have you also be able to comment on those. We are returning a little bit to our roots, which is that one-on-one engagement. So our announcements this morning are limited to an hour, and we're going to see how this goes, just so we can have more time for free-flowing discussion and addressing concerns and issues that have arisen. Obviously, the list is not inclusive in the sense of only those items. We did do a poll and ask if there are items that you'd like to discuss. So that's part of the reason why we're dispensed a little bit with the formal introductions and using the chat, and then trying to limit DSA's new initiatives or upcoming initiatives or recently released initiatives to just an hour. So again, thank you. And we look forward to a healthy discussion. If it ends early, that's always a benefit to all of us, and we can give you more time in your day. But you are welcome to add more to the list when that time comes, or initiate a discussion and have questions on anything that we present from staff today. So with that, I'd like to throw it over to Diane Gould, our principal structural engineer, who has a new structural supervising structural engineer on her team, and talk a little bit about what the work that Tim is doing. Go ahead, Diane.
Hi, good morning. I'm Diane Gould, Principal Structural Engineer over the Structural Codes and Standards Unit here in headquarters. And as Ida mentioned, I'd like to take this opportunity. I actually have two recently added staff members, but we'll start with Tim Pyland is my supervising structural engineer over the field program. So here at headquarters in the structural unit, we have I have a supervisor who Ryan Turner, who's also in attendance today, who provides oversight over all plan review related issues. DSA is responsible for both the design review and construction oversight, so we have those two aspects. And so those of you who may have been familiar with Ryan Huxley, previously held the role of supervisor, but he has moved on to other ventures, and we're glad to welcome Tim Pyland. Comes to us actually from Oshpod, so he brings a great perspective there from our sister agency. He joined us in January, and welcome aboard, Tim.
Is Tim on today, Diane?
He is, yeah. You might have to go to the other screen. Yeah, you want to wave and say hi, Tim?
Morning, this is Tim. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be in attendance. As Diane mentioned, I worked at Oshpod for 14 years, and look forward to my career here at DSA headquarters. Thank you.
So, and Diane, is Charles joining us today or no? You had mentioned he might. Is he on?
He is. He worked out a brief period here between lab visits. But yes, Charles Tinkler is the new administrator over our lab evaluation and acceptance program. So our lab program at DSA. Once again, those of you who may have been familiar with Eric France held that role for about 24 years. So Charles comes to us from the California Military Department and DGS before that, and lots of experience with special inspection work and testing labs before that. So we're very excited to welcome him aboard to the program. He joined us in November. So you want to wave and say hi, Charles?
Hi, Charles. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me. It's been a great time with DSA so far, and I look forward to doing good things.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Charles and Tim, for popping in and saying hi. Diane's had one of those unique opportunities of panic and excitement in the sense of her team retired all at once and has all new staff. What that brings a fresh look at our programs and look at improvements. So like I said, it's a little bit scary and also a little bit exciting at the same time. So, you know, issues, concerns that you have historically with the lab program and the project inspector program. We obviously want to hear about that because we have fresh ideas, fresh minds, fresh eyes on the program. And so we look forward to program improvements in that area. Eric, go ahead. Raise your, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was able to introduce Greg Kobe before we finalized all the introductions.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, that wasn't on the agenda, but you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think he attended the last one, probably.
Correct. Yeah. So we too had a retirement. Long-standing Principal Fire Life Safety Officer George Barnes retired late last year. We advertised for that and are very pleased to have Greg Kobe, who is a long-standing DSA employee with DSA Sacramento as a Fire Life Safety Officer too, was successful and has so far done a bang-up job at filling in some big shoes left by George. So you may have had your projects go through as a plan reviewer, Greg. I'm positive you found him to be fair and impartial and applied the code correctly, and he's continuing that in that spirit here at DSA headquarters as the Principal Fire Life Safety Officer. Greg, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Thank you for that introduction. Greg Kobe, Principal Fire Life Safety Officer at headquarters. It's a pleasure to be in this position to fill this role, and I look forward to working with all of you in implementing positive change in the future. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Greg. He'll be presenting some new information that we have today in just a little bit on the 810. So with that, I'm going to begin program updates. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Eric, and you can start. For all the others in line in the program updates, you can all just take over once Eric is done in the order that's on the agenda. Eric, you're mute.
Sorry. Not much to report in the way of accessibility. There is some rulemaking going on. We've got a rulemaking slide later on. I think the biggest update is the Sustainable Schools program. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to Alicia Chavez, who is our supervising architect over our sustainability unit here in headquarters.
Wait, Eric, I think in order of the slides, you do have the accessibility update right now.
Oh, gosh. I have it on the side here and I didn't see that slide up. Thank you.
Can you go back one slide, please, Andrew? There you go.
Okay, so this is a rulemaking slide.
Yeah, that's essentially what this, I believe, was, because yes, rulemaking.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. So rulemaking is occurring, of course, not just for access, but for all our disciplines. I think probably the most significant rulemaking is occurring for access, which is why it was included here in the program updates. Our 45-day comment periods are ongoing. As you see right there on the slide, we are sort of in the middle, although access tends to fall at the tail end of most of those 45-day rulemaking periods. That rulemaking, that 45-day public comment period started last week, was advertised, I believe, Friday, and is ongoing. The significance of the access is that for Chapter 11B, we are, go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'll bounce back to that slide when we talk about future dates. But part of the significance of the access proposals, as you see in the first bullet there, is that we are incorporating HUD's deeming notice into the existing ADAS-based requirements for public housing. And 11B, as you know, Chapter 11B organizationally mimics the ADAS, the 2010 ADAS. HUD issued a deeming notice in 2014, and there's been recent statute that requires DSA to align with that and to incorporate those 11 or 12 items that are in the deeming notice as an alternative standard to UFAS. So DSA Access is currently proposing about 25 different items, but there are a majority of them that are to align with the minimum federal standards as required by HUD's deeming notice, or as outlined by HUD's deeming notice. We're relocating some existing technical requirements for electrical receptacles. That's more of a clarifying item. Some on-call room clarifications to not require some of the requirements that seem to have been interpreted incorrectly relating to transient housing. So those are being pulled out or clarified. We're also clarifying some vertical height exception for existing parking facilities related to EVCS. As you know, there's height exceptions that are related to parking, but those were not carried over prior for EVCS. So we're trying to clarify that. And then clarifying some reference standards for elevators, platform lifts, power operated and power assisted doors, which had inadvertently been included because of a model code adoption of more recent reference standards, which are have not been shown to align with minimum federal standards. So we're trying to get those back to the minimum federal standards in this rulemaking period. If you can go to the previous slide, Andrew, I'll talk about some of the critical dates. So as I mentioned, we're here in the middle of the 45-day period. There has been the introduction because of a recent bill. I'm not sure if folks follow rulemaking, but it's a significant bill, AB 130, which is a very large housing bill that some Title 24 rulemaking limitations were included in. One of those is related to a moratorium on housing units through 2031. Another is some limitations on the intervening cycle, and a requirement that adopting and proposing rulemaking agencies are not allowed to do rulemaking that is not clarifying, or that is only clarifying or conforming. There are some carve-outs for state fire marshal and DSA access to align with minimum federal standards, which is why we're continuing our work on the HUD deeming notice effort. But there is a new, as part of that, to ensure compliance, Building Standards Commission has added a new, they're calling it a question and answer meeting on May 6th for the commission, which is in the middle of the 45-day rulemaking period. And then they'll have their adoption meetings later in the year, as indicated up above, on July 15th and 16th and August 12th and 13th. It's like they haven't announced the particular agenda for each of those meetings, but it's likely the access one will be August 12th and 13th. Of course, that carries out through the rest of the publication period if adopted. There'll be the 180-day statutorily required publication period, or sort of warm-up period. There'll be a publication period, and then the waiting period after the publication before the effective date of July 1, 2027. That's access. So you can go through 2 more slides, and then I'll get back to the Sustainable Schools Program slide. I'm sorry, document updates. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one in there, Andrew. 11B10, scoping path of travel requirements for facility alteration, addition, and structural repair projects has been revised as of late last year. PR 1501 required information for path of travel improvements, also updated late last year. And then we are going to be issuing other updates to various documents. The most near one, I think, is 11B9, which talks about PV structures. There'll be some significant updates in that. Of course, we'll be announcing that when it gets published. We're hoping to have that published by the end of this month. Next slide. Okay, now I get to go to the Sustainable Schools Program. And for that, I'll toss it over to Alicia Chavez.
Hello, everyone. So I will be covering the Sustainable Schools Program in an effort to support.
If you could state your title, please. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I thought Eric said that, but hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Chavez, Supervising Architect for the Sustainability Unit here at DSA headquarters, and I'll be reviewing the Sustainable Schools Program. In an effort to support our clients and stakeholders in 2024, DSA submitted a budget change proposal to the Department of General Services to include funding for positions to support and implement the Sustainable Schools Program. This program is intended to aid K-12 schools, districts, and community colleges in achieving sustainable facilities consistent with California's climate goals, and will aid design professionals in complying with California Green Building Standards Code and the California Energy Code requirements. It was approved within the state budget and signed by the governor on July 30th of last year, and it includes a number of new headquarters sustainability unit positions. On December 30th of last year, DSA published BU 2601 to notify stakeholders about the Sustainable Schools Program. Let's see. Advancing, let's see.
Andrew, can you go to the next
slide?
Yeah, sorry, Andrew, can you help with that? Okay, except now I don't. All right. So the BCP allows for 4 regional sustainability architects to be hired and stationed at each regional office. Barbara Gonzalez, my first hire in the LA office, started on February 9th. Sumaya Tabatabe, stationed in San Diego, started on April 6th. Our Sacramento hire begins on May 11th, and we are working to fill the open position in Oakland, with interviews being conducted soon, and that advertisement closes on May 6th. I see the button is here now. I can do that myself. Thank you, Andrew. The RSAs will attend pre-application meetings with district and design professionals to answer questions and provide guidance on requirements for Cal Green and Energy Code on a project-by-project basis. DSA's goal is to assist by answering questions districts face in achieving compliance. These new positions will be a liaison to districts and design professionals to provide resources, training, education, and sustainable strategies and code requirements. The RSAs will also be available to answer questions from DSA and their design professionals during the design phase of projects through calls, emails, and scheduling in-person or virtual meetings. And this is showing the DSA 91, 2, 3, and 4, which pretty soon will no longer be used, but we may be covering that later. It eventually will become a digital form someday in the near future. The RSAs will be assisting the project services team with intake of projects submitted to DSA, and will be conducting full reviews for inclusion using the DSA 403C, the Cal Green checklist, which are required to be submitted with most projects. The RSAs will coordinate with the intake architect, who will continue to be the responsible party for coordinating with the design professionals and district staff. DSA depends heavily on design professionals to ensure compliance with their drawings and specifications to require declarations indicating compliance for approval of plans and specifications. And as of July 1st of 2024, embodied carbon regulations went into effect in Cal Green and was also added to the 403C, which contains the DSA worksheets for the 3 options for compliance, and the RSAs will be reviewing for inclusion the required forms for the path selected on the drawings. RSAs will also be assisting project services with intake by checking projects for inclusion using the 403 energy compliance checklist, which is required for most site-specific projects, and the DSA 403 PC for all pre-check building designs. To support this effort, the regional sustainability architects will also be attending training through the Energy Code ACE pilot cohort program to receive additional training and support for certification on energy code requirements. So the sustainability unit RSAs will not be conducting full review for Cal Green and energy compliance for regular plan review projects. That's been a big question. Although they will assist with full plan review of pre-check classroom building designs for Cal Green and energy code compliance, and verifications will be conducted by RSAs for compliance for applications including the construction of relocation of PC building designs. RSA staff will review the project documents to verify that no unapproved changes are included in the project documents that would void the original PC approval design. This verification will occur as part of the intake for over-the-counter and regular plan review process. DSA will not conduct a verification for relocation of PCs submitted for approval prior to December 31st of 2010 under the 2007 CBC. And effective January 1st of 2032, all PC relocations will require a Cal Green and Energy Code verification regardless of its initial submittal date. This information can be found in the PR 1802 last published in November of 2025. RSAs will also assist in review of the OPSC submittals made for the OPSC's Supplemental Energy Efficiency Grant submitted to DSA probably later this year. That's all I have.
Is Justin on? Yes.
He is,
Justin
but he's
on.
muted.
Okay. Hi, Justin.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Smith. I'm the Deputy Director of Business and Program Operations. So I'm here to talk about the fee reductions. We can go.
Next slide, Andrew.
Yeah, back to there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So effective July 26th, July 2026, DSA will be reducing its structural plan review fees. And again, this is we reduced our fees last year in September 1st, 2025. This is in an effort to maintain a more prudent fund balance. And in both of so we will be reducing the structural plan review fees. This is roughly a 20% fee reduction. Our last reduction that was effective September 1st of 2025 was 10%. And so, like I said, in an effort to maintain a more prudent fund balance in both the structural safety revolving fund and the access, we will be reducing our access fees by 20% as well. It's in an effort to maintain a more prudent fund balance and not overcharge our clients for their projects. You can get you want to advance the slide, Andrew? This is the access fees. So essentially, it kind of calculates what a typical project would would cost a client under these new fee conditions. And again, it's roughly a 20% fee reduction for our clients.
Okay, Harlan.
Any questions on this?
Oh, sorry.
No? Thank you.
Justin, this is
Yes.
Ron at San Diego. Just to add, we are updating our fee calculator on our website. That will be up and running by the middle of May, which is 6 weeks before your registration window. So when you go to register your projects in middle of May, first submittal on July 1st or after, the fee calculator will be updated. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Harlan Raymont, Regional Manager of the Sacramento office. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about our use of a cost estimator contract consultant. As you are all aware, California Administrative Code Section 4309C, when reconstruction or alteration project exceeds 50% of the replacement value of the existing building, the building must be rehabilitated to meet current structural codes to resist wind and seismic forces. Before we engaged a cost estimating consultant, we were relying on the OPSC values, and those really didn't reflect what was happening in the construction market for schools. So we're kind of sensitive to that, and that's why we engaged a cost estimator. And so under our first contract, which just recently expired, we developed a cost estimating template, which can be found on DSA's IREB4 Section 3.4, Alternative Valuation B, where the design professional can prepare a quantity takeoff and build a cost estimate using values that are current to present or current to present to DSA for our evaluation. DSA does not have any expertise in evaluating costs, so we also use this cost estimating consultant to review cost estimates that are provided by the design professionals on an ongoing basis. As I mentioned, the current contract has expired, and we are in the process of in fact, it just got advertised, a new RFQ for cost estimators. These are 3-year contracts, and hopefully we get a good response on that. This time around, we're going to have 2 cost estimators on contract, a primary, which will do most of the work. But if there is a conflict of interest where the cost estimator that we select as our contractor is also your cost estimator, we'll have an alternate cost estimator to evaluate your work. And hopefully, like I said, we'll have a new cost estimator on board within a couple of months. Thank you.
Everybody, this is Ron, the regional manager in San Diego. Give everybody an update on an issue that we have. We're working through with the Cash Architects Committee. I think Laura brought this to the committee at the last couple of cash conferences, and that is relocatable buildings, modular buildings. When we move them from site to site, we've had a statement in IR 16-1. It requires the design professional general responsible charge to essentially go to the site and do a condition assessment of the modular building and then document that in a letter. And that's been causing a little bit of issue with the architects and their E&O insurance. And so we are working with Architects Committee. They're going to propose change language to this. It's important from DSA's perspective because these buildings have conditional foundations, meaning they don't meet the building code and they can deteriorate over time. And so sometimes they're on wood foundations, or sometimes they are placed below grade and soil is placed up against the side of the building. And there's a conditional approval where they don't have the full code compliant waterproofing. So there can be a fair amount of deterioration in the base and also the exterior walls. And so that's part of the condition assessment. The other is making sure they haven't been altered structurally or in other manners that would mean they no longer comply with the building code. So anyways, we're working on that. As soon as we get feedback from that committee, we'll pursue adjusting this language.
And the language you're showing on here is the current language, right? They're proposing,
Correct.
the new one has been proposed, but that's not being shown here.
Now we've had some communication with the Cache Architects Committee, some members sending us proposed changes to the language, but that's gone pushed back to the committee because the whole committee hasn't reviewed that language yet. So we don't have any proposed language yet to review from the whole committee as a whole. So this is the language that's in the current IR item.
Thank you, Ron.
Welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Morton. I'm the regional manager in the Oakland office. This is kind of a misnomer, but a good way of description internally. So this LAUSD process, we've talked about it briefly before, really is an emergency process that DSA has been working to develop due to the extraordinary conditions resulting from the disaster that was the Palisades fire and LA Unified's rebuild effort that's currently being undertaken. There's a condensed time frame for both design and plan review. So as DSA was brought in, this is a full involvement from DSA as a whole, not just the Los Angeles office. There's 3 projects that are submitted for plan review, one in Oakland, one in Sacramento, one in San Diego. So we all three offices are supporting the Los Angeles region in this, as they would have been swamped with the workload. There's been extensive collaboration with DSA and the design teams throughout the design and review period. The design period was through most of the fall and early spring. The projects were submitted starting in March and April of this year. So projects are currently at the initial plan review stage. There's been good communication between DSA and the design teams. The district's been involved in all those communications as well. But this process is a work in progress. We're going to evaluate the successes and failures as we pull this together for future use as we need to. There will be large-scale disasters at some point in the future, and DSA wants to be able to support the districts and the design teams in the rebuilds with these large-scale displacement and repair projects, really needing a large coordinated effort to get the schools back in place. This was modeled on the old collaborative process, but one of the failures that DSA is seeing is the design time frame is condensed into such a short time frame, and the difficulty of design teams to incorporate DSA input from this. We provided reviews at a DD level, 100% DD, and at 50% CD. And we're finding that the design teams understood the comments and things that were being provided to them, but there was so much going on that a lot of it got lost in the wash, and we didn't get things closed and really put to bed before the final submittal came in. We're still kind of going over some things that we had hoped to have done ahead of that initial submittal and then help reduce our time frame on that initial submittal time frame coming in. So more to come on this, and there'll be a fancy DSA name and form or some sort of procedure that'll eventually get released with this. But for now, that's where things stand with this.
Thank you, Chris. I guess we could take an opportunity for questions on any of these issues as they come along. I know that we're moving at a pretty fast pace. So if you do have questions, please raise your hand. Andrew's monitoring the chat for those questions. I don't see any right now, so we can move on back to Eric.
Sorry, I muted myself again. As Alicia mentioned, currently we have the DSA 91, 92, 93, 94 that are available on the website. DSA about a month and a half ago is really what was initiated as part of our Sustainable Schools program to capture some of the questions that are being asked, frequently asked questions, made the decision to go to a web form that is just a single form that would be submitted for all regional offices. DSA 90 is what the document will be called. We are planning to release that probably mid-May at the latest. And of course, there will be an announcement that follows, and then we'll take the 91, 92, 93, and 94 off the website. But you'll be able to go into the web form, which is, it's a fairly simplified Microsoft form, web-based form that you'll input all of the same information into that you would have put into the regional office based 91, 92, 93, 94. But it'll capture that data for us, and we'll be keeping a database and be getting regular reports, really not just on sustainability, but all of the questions that are being asked. And this will help us in a number of ways. It'll certainly give us some frequently asked questions, but it also gives us the ability to highlight potential need for policy changes, procedure changes, rulemaking changes, as that data becomes more readily available. Currently, right now, it just resides in each project folder. So I think there's a lot of benefits to collecting this sort of data and these questions. The web-based form will be nearly identical to the current. Currently, you download the form, type in your information into the appropriate fields, click on the submit at the bottom of the form, and it automatically generates an email that gets sent to that regional office. It'll essentially be a very analogous process. One slight difference to that is that you will hit submit and you'll get a recognition on screen that it was submitted. And then immediately following that, you'll get an automated email sent to whoever the submitter is. That email and the directions on the 90 will tell you to submit your supplemental information by responding to that email. So all you really have to do is reply to all, and it's really just one email address that it will reply to unless you add CCs to it. And you will attach, similarly to the Adobe form process, you'll attach any supplemental documents that you need to provide to DSA. Once we've received that reply, that's when you'll be contacted by the appropriate or the requested regional office staff to finalize the schedule. As normal with the old Adobe form, you input the time, the requested times and dates, or time range and dates that you would like to meet, and we'll finalize that similarly to the old process you would have at each of the regional offices. Again, some of the benefits are that it's a single form for all regions. You may have had some frustration with limitations on characters within the question fields. There really isn't a realistic limit. There is a limit, but it's hundreds of thousands of characters. So I don't suspect. Hopefully, you're not entering questions that push that limit, but you really isn't a realistic limit on characters. Again, we'll have the ability to collect and retain that data for frequently asked questions, but we hope that this rollout will be pretty seamless for our stakeholders. And that's it on that slide, Andrew. And for this next section, I'll kick it over to Greg Kobabe to talk about our new PL 2601 that was recently published with the new form DSA 1 AMM-810.
Thank you, Eric. Really appreciate, of course, the introduction earlier. And once again, my name is Greg Kobabe. I am the Principal Fire and Life Safety Officer at DSA headquarters. I've been in this role for about 6 months, so we're trying to make some real quick changes as I try and fill big shoes. So As Eric had mentioned, I was a plan reviewer at Sacramento Regional Office for over a decade, where I was able to see firsthand some of the issues that came up on a daily basis with the plans, some of the items that we should provide clarification, coordination, development on. And so one of the major items that we saw, one of the major issues was the requirements for fire service features and the current DSA 810, also known as the Fire and Life Safety Site Condition Submittal. That form specifically caused a lot of confusion for design professionals, FLS plan reviewers, school districts, the LFA, a lot of questions as to who's supposed to fill out what sections, what's acceptable. And so in response, over the years, we've kind of gleaned a list of things that should be remedied. And so that is where policy PL 2601 and Form 1 AMM 810 come from. So the new policy, I'm not sure if you guys were able to look it over, read it over, and kind of soak it in, but the new policy PL 2601 is entitled Requirements for Fire Service Features and Requests for Alternate Materials and Methods for Fire Service Features. So there's two parts to that. I'll first start off by saying that the effective date of this policy in that form is July 1st, 2026. Until that effective date, the design professional can continue to submit the DSA 810, or you can comply with the PL 2601 starting now. So you have that option. We support either one. Of course, we'd love to see PL 2601 being implemented sooner than later. We feel that it will clarify a lot of confusion. So the two purposes of PL 2601, one was to establish the minimum requirements for fire service features, and the second was to specify the requirements for submitting a request for alternate materials and methods via the DSA 1 AMM 810. Can I control this? There we go. So the background with this is that obviously everybody knows that DSA is the authority having jurisdiction for fire and life safety regulations, codes, and standards related to public school and community college construction. Those fire service features are required to comply with CCR, California Code of Regulations, Title 19 and Title 24. Those are the titles that DSA plan reviewers refer to and enforce during the course of their review and during construction oversight. The LFA has a mandated responsibility to provide emergency response and annual inspections for public schools, but they are not the AHJ. They are, once again, we call them the local fire authority. They retain that authority for, again, providing emergency services and those annual inspections. One thing that came up to FLS supervisors and headquarters in the last year was that OSFM, the State Fire Marshal's Office, does not adopt CFC Section 503, which is specific to fire service features, fire apparatus access roads. And because of that, that was also another reason why PL 2601 was required, was to establish those minimum requirements that there was really no direction on and no adoption for. So going into what PL 2601 applies to all new campuses, new and relocated buildings, additions to existing buildings. And to clarify that one, it doesn't matter if it's an addition of 1 square foot or 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, that if it's an increase in fire area, this policy applies, and obviously the request for alternate materials and methods may be used. It applies to the rehabilitation of non-conforming buildings, alterations and changes of use to existing buildings that require modifications to existing fire service features. Now I'll clarify that one. So that is not a new building, that is not an addition to a building, that is alterations and changes of use to existing buildings that may include, for example, if fire sprinklers are required to be added to a building because you went from a classroom, groupie classroom, to a groupie vocational wood shop or a auto shop, that would trigger sprinkler requirement. And at that point, on site would require a fire department connection, a PIV possibly, new fire hydrant. So those are fire service features that would be triggered that would trigger this policy and a fire access site plan review. Also, alterations to existing fire apparatus access roads, fire protection, water supplies, and other fire service features would trigger policy 2601. I'll give you an example. Let's say the school district has an existing fire access lane they want to eliminate and reroute. No work is happening to a building, but they're doing that as part of the site work. It is a fire service feature that would require compliance with policy 2601 and to be shown on the fire access site plan. Feel free to stop me anytime if you got questions. I'm happy to answer those. So the policy itself requires compliance with the minimum requirements of Title 19, Title 24, and PL 2601, Section 1, which contain all the minimum requirements. If those minimum requirements are met and you meet the prescriptive requirements of the code, then you do not need to submit anything to the LFA for review or acceptance prior to DSA plan approval. So once again, don't have to submit to the LFA. This form is not required on every plan submittal. It is only required where an alternate materials and methods request is being pursued. In conjunction with that, though, DSA strongly advises that design professionals and school districts coordinate your applicable projects submitted to DSA with the LFA to ensure the LFA can effectively provide emergency response services. They are the boots on the ground. So in conjunction with that, the code requires a site safety plan to be submitted to the code official. DSA is the code official, but we don't fight fires. We're not the ones going to be utilizing that site safety plan. And so there is going to be a new requirement on the DSA 102 IC that not only requires the site safety plan to be submitted to DSA for our file, but also a copy to be provided to the LFA in accordance with whatever policies and procedures they may have prior to the start of construction. And what this will do, it'll create greater coordination with the LFA in bringing awareness to projects that they may not see until they do their annual inspections in subsequent years. But once again, because they are the boots on the ground, they're the ones with the fire trucks, and they're the ones that are going to be fighting the fires. They need to know what the site safety plan says. And I will clarify, though, that they are not technically supposed to review it. You can create that plan in coordination with the LFA, but they are technically not supposed to review that. That's under DSA's authority, it is simply to be provided. They should accept that document and utilize it if they have emergency response. So the policy lays out several requirements that are in need of clarification, specification. The first is fire apparatus access roads. Second, fire protection water supplies. Other fire service features that would include fire department connections, post indicator valves, other isolation and control valves, location of fire risers. So those would fall under that other category where there may be modifications on site due to some kind of limitation or geographic conditions that would be looked at. But this establishes the minimum requirement and refers you to the specific code sections that should be utilized in applying that code. It also contains a section for wildland urban interface areas, which refers to the new Part 7, 2025 California Wildland Urban Interface Code. And then the final section is what happens if you have non-conforming fire service features and site conditions. Well, that will lead us to the next part, which is the 1 AMM 810. The next section of the policy is that we do have a required information for DSA submittal that applies to all projects that are under that applicability section. So the fire access site plan would be required with a long list of items that we do want to see. I do want to clarify and point out that section 2.1.2 of the policy states the design professional shall clearly identify all new and existing fire service features or portions thereof associated with the project scope of work on the fire access site plan. Now here's an important question that's going to come up over and over, and I'm sure we're going to have to refer to this section. Existing DSA certified fire service features shall not be required to comply with current code requirements. So if it's not being touched, if it's existing and it does have a DSA certification, which we may ask for in plan review or at back check to verify that it's not to be commented on, that can remain in place. If a certification or DSA application number cannot be obtained for a portion of that fire service feature, that it could be subject to code compliance because we just can't verify it was ever looked at, reviewed, or certified by DSA. So once again, where there are non-conforming fire service features and site conditions, the design professional may submit a request for alternate materials and methods with the form 1 AMM 810. So this is specifically a request for alternate materials and methods, not required to be on every set of plans. It is only to be utilized, obviously in this situation. And we retain the number 810 to kind of make the tie over between the DSA 810 and this new form. Eventually in the future, I do suspect we don't have to continue calling it the 1 AMM 810. We'll just call it the 810 like we do now as of July 1st, 2026. So in the policy, it clarifies that the design professional is required to prepare the DSA 1 AMM 810 in its entirety, with the exception of two sections. The school district is required to acknowledge the non-conforming site conditions that necessitate alternate materials or methods. This is to kind of give them a heads up and say, hey, you have something that doesn't meet the code. We're going to look for an alternate material or method to demonstrate equivalent compliance. The local fire authority is to accept the proposed alternate materials or methods. And this is something that I encourage the design professional and school district to work in coordination with the LFA to determine what would be acceptable for them in their situation. And lastly, DSA would approve that proposed alternate material or method, understanding that final approval is contingent on us agreeing with the local fire authority's acceptance and the proposed or recommended alternate. So DSA obviously reserves the right for final approval. Even if the LFA accepts something, we may say we unfortunately don't accept that. As an example, I'll just say, let's say we have a fire access lane required width is 20 feet. You want to go 18 feet and we can't see any justifiable reason other than, hey, it just makes it easier and cuts cost. That is not a good reason for submitting an AMM. Not a justifiable reason if there's no geographic, topographical, or any other condition that would prevent that from being met. So the DSA 1MM 810. As I was preparing these slides, I always go to my wife and say, hey, what do you think about this presentation? And here were her words of encouragement. She said, I have no idea what you just said, but the forms look great. So there we go. This is the form. It looks great. I think everyone can agree everything's nice in line there. All the check boxes are great. So this form is to be used in conjunction with PL 2601. Specifically, they're completely work together. Again, the DSA 1MM 810 is required to be completed by the design professional. Page 1 and 2 of the 810 are required to be copied onto the fire access site plan only when alternate materials and methods are being proposed. So as an example, I'm not sure if, can I get a raise of hands or just kind of like a yes or no? Has anybody got a chance to review the form or the policy at this point from our design professional community?
Yes, I've been able to.
Okay, very good. You agree with my wife? It looks great.
It's good.
Yeah, very good. So sections 6, 7, and 8 are where the design professional is going to identify the non-conforming conditions and propose alternate materials or methods in coordination with the LFA. So as an example, we may have a fire access site gate that is only 14 feet wide. We're required to have a 20-foot width for fire truck access. There may be an issue with, widening that because it's between a couple of buildings or some kind of other barrier that you'd have to demolish or tear down. That is an example of something that would be acceptable for the LFA to propose to the LFA for acceptance, and DSA would approve that, knowing that that restriction is literally only a few inches, between 2 points. So once again, section 6D, checking yes or no, would be completed by the design professional. And the next slide indicates what is to be completed by the school district and the local fire. So school district is required to complete section 4 to acknowledge, once again, that there are proposed alternate materials or methods and there are non-conforming fire service features. School district may say, let's just bring everything up to code, once they're aware of this, because there is a certain amount of liability that may occur in the future if, those minimum code requirements are not met. But we're trying to establish this form will establish equivalency in code as is required by, the AMMR section in the admin code. And the next checkbox, obviously, is the local fire authority acceptance. This is where the local fire, a representative of local fire, could be the fire chief, could be the, anybody who has that authority to make decisions for and in behalf of the local fire can complete this form and sign it off. We do want it to be somebody, obviously, who does have administrative authority. Same thing applies to the school district. We don't want it to be signed by, an auto shop teacher. We want it to be signed by a superintendent, assistant superintendent, a project manager or something like that. Somebody who has that administrative authority over construction projects for the school. So that concludes the presentation on the PL 2601 and the AMM 810. Are there any questions or any feedback that you guys may have?
Looks like we have a question from Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Yes, I was just going to ask, is there going to be a place where all these records are held, or is it going to be the responsibility of the schools to make sure that they keep these on file for any future questions or any future designs?
Eric, do you have an answer on that? Yeah, that's an admin kind of decision.
So the AMM will be, of course, part of the drawing set if you desire to submit it. Additionally, if you're not submitting an A10, of course, those fire features would also be included on the plans themselves. Of course, we do have new requirements that require the district to provide those documents should there be a public records request. However, they will reside on the drawings. In addition, if the A10 is submitted, we also keep that document in our files, but that would be just in the DSA files. The district may or may not desire to keep it. Certainly, it would be to their benefit to keep those documents, but there is no prescriptive requirement in the policy for the districts to act in any particular way.
And in response to the site safety plan, that is something that gets uploaded to our admin staff when they submit the 102 IC, and you check the box saying it's submitted. It goes with the email, and that gets filed away as electronically. The site safety plan also required to be provided to the local fire. We don't verify that. We take your word for it. If you check the box, we just take your word for it that it's been submitted to them or provided to them. So. Any other questions or thoughts, suggestions? All right. Seeing none, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm totally open to suggestions, feedback. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear it. We definitely will consider those items. You can reach me by email, or my phone number is also on the DSA website. Thank you.
Hey, so I'm up next, and I'm going to share a program that DSA is collaborating with the Applied Technology Council on ATC. They were recently awarded a grant from Cal OES, and the objective of the project is to, develop mitigation strategies and obtain data that can be used by California's K-12 public schools, K-12 public school districts. Oh, and I should say, for those of you familiar with ATC, they love to assign numbers to all of their projects. So this is the ATC 175 project. So the objective of the project is to help school districts prioritize their most vulnerable school buildings for seismic mitigation, to help them better understand the costs and benefits of different seismic mitigation strategies, and also, most importantly, to be able to seek and obtain funding to support those projects. So as I mentioned, this is a collaborative effort between ATC and DSA. They are using the data from a 2002 seismic safety study, better known as the AB 300 review that we did at the direction of the legislature. The result of that inventory, it went through the various certified school buildings and placed them into two categories. Category 1 being buildings that were expected to perform relatively well in earthquakes, and then Category 2, as you can see on the slide, those are non-wood buildings and generally pre-1976 Uniform Building Code. That's kind of a benchmark year where there were substantial improvements in seismic design requirements for buildings. So those Category 2 buildings have certain aspects, structural systems that are known to have potential for damage and collapse during large earthquakes. So the result of that inventory identified about 7,500 school buildings across the state that fell into that category. When that was done in 2002, those buildings represented 14% of all the public school floor area in California. And then here we are in 2026, more than 20 years later. It's estimated that about 20% maybe of those buildings have been retrofit, sold, or demolished. So what are some of the barriers that we believe that might exist leading to that kind of low number, that 20% number? We believe there's limited awareness among many school district administrators about which buildings may be seismically vulnerable. This AB 300 list was provided to districts back 20 years ago. There's been a lot of staff changes. There may be just a general lack of awareness. Even if they are aware, there's a great deal of uncertainty about mitigation steps, including how to assess the risk and what actions would be required. There's also either insufficient or perceived lack of funding to carry out those seismic upgrades or retrofits. And there also seems to be a disproportionate impact on high need districts, especially serving large populations of disadvantaged students. So the plan deliverables for this project, we will be preparing a publicly available resource guide that will be a downloadable PDF available through ATC to help districts identify, prioritize, and take action on their most vulnerable school buildings. There will also be tailored guidance and data that's designed specifically to support those high need districts and give them more assistance in being able to upgrade their aging or at-risk facilities. We'll also be looking to create maybe webinars or a targeted educational outreach to selected districts. Once again, to help them build capacity within their staff and understanding about seismic mitigation. And then ultimately, the plan is to identify one high need district and basically provide direct assistance to them in preparing a hazard mitigation grant program sub-application. So I should say that's a FEMA grant program. So that would be on top of the California SMP funding that's available through OPSC, but walking them through that sub-application to get funding for seismic upgrades to one or more of their most vulnerable buildings. And the project is a 3-year project. It commenced late last year, September 2025, and targeted completion for November of 2027.
Thank you, Diane. Do you have, is there any assistance you need in identifying that need from the PSCC? Like, is that helpful at all? Identifying districts that could have that need.
I don't know that we have that need at this time, but certainly we'll reach out. We just had a kickoff meeting of our project review panel. There's a project technical committee who's working on various components of the project, and then a kind of a steering panel meeting. We just held that on Tuesday this week, and we're having the second half on Thursday next week. So we should know more maybe as a result of those meetings. If outreach will be needed, we will definitely be in contact. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there's a question from Eric Swenson. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. A few questions. One is that list of buildings that was compiled quite a while ago, is that available for distribution? Because we all have existing clients. We might want to make them aware of some of these new things that are going on. And then two, in the last 25 years, there have been significant changes in the geotechnical aspects of seismic hazard, particularly in liquefaction assessment, and what we now consider to be problems that maybe 25 years ago we didn't. And I think that could have a major impact on, what sites are considered to be a problem, what schools will have a problem that maybe 25 years ago we didn't. Is there any kind of updating of that might be integrated into this ATC project as part of that assessment?
Thank you. I'll address the first question about the list, the so-called AB 300 list. That can be requested because it is so old, and we had to. There were federal and state laws that required any content that's publicly posted to be accessible, like screen reader accessible, and it was going to be too difficult to convert that list to an accessible format. So if you go to our DSA website, it will have information. You can Google DSA and AB 300. It will have information about the project and how the list was developed, and you can submit a request to receive that that list. I will say, it's sort of frozen in time. It was basically a desktop review of what drawings we had in our files. So it's known to be, there's certainly buildings on the list that may not belong there, and there's certainly buildings that aren't on the list that should be there. So it should be taken with a grain of salt. Looked at more. The report is also available for request. So there's the list, and then there's also the report that talked about that, category 1 and 2 and the types of systems. So really, I think the valuable information is to understand those building archetypes and the certain, like I said, structural systems that we've now learned since pre-1976 may be susceptible. And you bring up an excellent point about the change in the geohazards as well over the years. I have to say I don't know that the project has defined yet specifically how we will prioritize, that the higher risk districts, but it's a point well taken. I'll take it back to the committee. Yeah.
It seems like you're focusing on the structure itself, and it's just like that's only half of the issue. That's only half the issue.
Yeah, but the basic, the basic tier 1 checklist of ASCE 41 does include a geohazard. There's a geohazard checklist as well. Okay. I don't know if that addresses. Yeah. Sorry?
Is it okay if I chime in quickly?
Yes, Josh. I was going to say, we also have the chair of our project technical committee, Josh. I'll let you go ahead.
So the AB 300 list is based solely on the structural building type and the vintage. The SMP program introduces geologic hazards and actually eliminates the pre-76 requirement. So there wouldn't be an update to the AB 300 list based on changes to the way liquefaction is evaluated, because it was never considered on the list. It wasn't part of the site location, and the geologic hazards that may or may not be present were not part of the AB 300 consideration. It was solely based on the structural building type and the vintage. So that wouldn't be updated. The program, the ATC 175 project, will go into depth on geologic hazards, and their impact on SMP funding. But the tricky part in that is that we're trying to present this to school districts. That's the intended audience. And that's not something they would be evaluating up front. We're making it clear that this handbook is a guide to guide them through the process and in the identification of the buildings. But the most important message is that it doesn't replace the involvement of qualified architects, structural engineers, and geotechnical engineers. So does that address your question, or
yeah.
bring up more questions?
It just, I was just curious as to, what if there's an element there at all or not, but it sounds like it really isn't being addressed per se in this, this study or, this program at this point, but, at least it gives us something that we can communicate with our clients about, and we're here to help disseminate this information as well to the districts that we work with.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions?
I guess I would just add, since I'm on the review committee, that I think Eric brings up a good point, is that this targeted thing on the SMP funding and the AB 300 as the source material for it doesn't touch the whole story of districts who have to bring up structurally inadequate buildings, right? I think his point on geotechnical, but we also have the full 50% replacement threshold for buildings. And I mentioned that yesterday, and I saw Diane smile in the meeting, but I think it is one piece of this, but I think, and mentioned it yesterday, there needs to be some sort of preamble or discussion in the final outcome that says this is one category of buildings that can get you to seismic mitigation funds, but there are other potential hazards, right? And I think that that's, as long as we're clear that this is one pillar, I think it's okay, but it certainly isn't comprehensive at this point, unless we, touch on those things in an expansive kind of way.
Thanks,
All right.
Laura.
Thank you for that. Before I pass it to Andrew, I wanted to mention that I know we didn't have formal introductions when we began. I appreciate those who put their name and the group they represent in the chat. If you haven't done that already, please do so. And I also wanted to mention that our acting regional manager, David Brown from Los Angeles, is on vacation. And so we do have Chang Min Lin, who is supervising structural engineer from Los Angeles, representing the Los Angeles office, if you have any questions that are directed specifically to LA. Andrew, I'll pass this to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we'll take a brief 10-minute break. And when we come back, we'll start PSCC member initiated issues and discussions. A few of you have raised some issues via email. We'll discuss those if you'd like to bring them up, or anything else that you'd like to discuss. So it's 10, let's see you back at 10:25. Does that sound good? All right, thank you, everyone. With that, I'd like to begin member initiated issues and discussions. Laura, I believe you brought up a few issues, and thank you for your feedback. If you'd like just to begin, we can start. Thank you.
Yeah, I did got some feedback from the cash architects, but also throughout our offices, since we kind of touch all the regional offices. Buddy probably is in the same boat. So we've had a number of people talking, and some of these are like the big things and then the stones in the shoe. So I don't know if you want to categorize them that way, but tracker updates. I know that you guys talked about the new tracker, but it's not very worthwhile right now for accurate information. So that was a comment. I continue to get people asking to release the Bluebeam session as each discipline completes their review. I know we've talked about that before, but I told them I'd bring it back. We have several people talking about plan reviewers dictating where on the plan detailed references or scope are explained, or where in the set of plans, because they think it'll make it easier for their review or for contractors in the future. Those things might be true, but probably not in their purview. Regional office inconsistency, right? That's a new one. And then the two kind of bigger things are the intake, right? I know we don't have to get 48 hours to respond, but it seems sort of random which projects do and don't get that. And so, some policy around that would be great. 24, 48, whatever it is. So those were sort of the stones in the shoe. And then I just have a couple of things about escalation on the 50% replacement and how the new estimator will deal with that, like to like. Yeah. So that's a long list. I don't know. I don't know how you want to handle them, but I will get it back to the cash architects once we have some thoughts.
So I thank you for the list, because obviously, like I said today, this was a big effort to get back to our roots, to discussing these issues further, at least checking in on them every 6 months. I do have staff available to take on the topics that you did submit. And so I think I'd like to do that in the order that you feel is beneficial in preference and what you want to discuss first, Laura. So do you?
Yeah. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that, some of them might be email responses, right? Like tracker will be updated on this date and that'll make it better, right? But in the meantime, we acknowledge it isn't being updated or accurate. Is that a fair statement?
And we can address that right now with Ron. I was just going to pass it to you, Ron. We didn't, as I stated before, especially just coming off a large conference and how we integrate with especially our constituents outside of this PSCC, which is representative, is through cash and is through email. So I didn't want to overload a lot of this and be repetitive, because I wanted to get to issues, but eTracker is very fast. We offered to not do an eTracker update today, but Ron is available since that's a question that was asked and it can be addressed rather quickly. So go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Laura, I assume you're asking about the current eTracker that we all have been using for the last 20 plus years. I will say this, the eTracker is instantaneous. So if I went in and changed the percent completion on a plan review from 25% to 30%, as soon as I hit save as internal user, and if you went and checked it instantly after I hit save, you would see it change from 25 to 30%. So your external viewing eTracker is all integrated with our internal one. There's no delay. There's no delay of a day before it gets uploaded or anything like that. So when you say it's not accurate, is it is it due to some plan reviewers not keeping up with that percent complete, or?
I think that's part of it, and maybe Buddy has some feedback. I think, honestly, it gets to the regional manager's desk, and they all sit at 85% for a long time, and we don't know when it's coming out, right? So that's probably a process issue, but I told them I would bring it up.
So just to clarify, it sits at the supervisor's desk.
Supervisor's desk, yeah.
And I think that, and I don't know, Ron, if our new e-tracker will give us a better indication, especially to supervisors on, I know we have dashboards now, but I don't know if there's information that's also coming to the regional managers to track progress on getting those projects out. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so as each of our 3 primary disciplines, or as each of those disciplines finish their review, the plan review will put 85%. That means they're done with the plan review. We kind of reserve the last 15% for back check. So that's how our systems currently operates. And so when the plan reviewer finishes their review plus the 85%, it then jumps the project to the supervisor's dashboard saying, look, you need to do the QA review on it. I direct the staff and all my supervisors, like, you need to turn that around within a couple business days. A matter of fact, what I asked them to do is put the anticipated finish date of the project to include the QA review, so we get it all back to the client at the anticipated finish date. That doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. And so sometimes you might see access plan reviewer be at 85% and the fire be at 85%, but structural's not, right? And so it won't be released into the client to you until all 3 disciplines have hit 85% and they've all finished their QA. If you see all 3 disciplines at 85% for more than a few days, you should be pinging that supervisor and say, why is this project not coming out? What's the holdup? I see that it's done. And then if you get no response there, then certainly reach out to one of us regional managers and we'll sort that out. I can go look at a supervisor dashboard and see the QA status on all of my supervisors and see if any of them are lagging. I tend to focus on the structurals QA lagging because that's usually the bottleneck because their review takes longer. Sometimes the fire or access supervisor, knowing structural still 2 weeks away, they might not jump on that QA quality assurance review the next day or 2 after their plan review finishes it, because they know there's another discipline that's going to take longer. But that's how it works in our end, and we can see all that. So again, if you're seeing something not come out of DSA when you see 85% for all 3 disciplines, ping the supervisor and then elevate it to the regional manager.
Yeah, we've done that, and thanks for recommending that. We've done that and reached out on projects that have sensitive schedules, and the supervisors have been responsive and giving us either an update of when they're going to be complete, so that we could plan properly, or just letting us know, like, hey, yeah, this is coming back to you today. So they've been collaborative and helping work through that.
Yeah, I agree. I just it would be helpful. Maybe the new dashboard will have a supervisor tab, right? So that we can see if they're getting behind a little bit, which is fine. We understand there's a lot of workload. It's just, you get that 85%, you get pretty excited that it's all coming out. So maybe that feeds into the any future consideration about releasing the various disciplines and before the whole thing is complete. I think I know the answer, but I'll ask again.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that discussion. I know that our emergency process is utilizing an early release just because of the condensing the time. And I was curious if maybe any of the regional, like Ron or Chris or Harlan, having experienced that in the LAUSD process, if they can provide any additional information on how that's going. I know it's very difficult for us to do it because of that impatience. People want to start looking and responding to those questions when we're not done. But I'd just like for them to get an opportunity if one of them wants to speak as to the controls and respect that perhaps has been occurring in the condensed review. Anyone?
I think the regional managers, we all kind of parsed out these responses. So this one's mine. So I think Laura, understanding how we operate inside DSA as far as scheduling projects helps to understand that a little bit first. And that is structural, as I mentioned before, generally has the longest duration schedule. So when a project comes in, we go right to plan review within 5 business days after receiving the project. Goes through intake, goes to plan review. And then usually structural starts right away. And so say it's a month-long plan review project. Well, the fire and access, they may only need 2 or 3, 4 days to review that project, where structural needs the full, say, 20 business days that month or thereabout. So the fire and access, they're not going to start their review typically until the last week or week and a half. So as the project is near structural completion, they'll jump on that project and get it done. And so the way that access and fire prioritize their work is not in the same manner that structural prioritizes their work. Structural its start date starts when projects are submitted. Fire and access back figure to finish before structural. So generally speaking, to release comments early for fire and access wouldn't be that big of an advantage, because you're only going to get a couple days or most a week advance notice. It's not like a 3-month-long job. You're going to get fire and access comments after the first 3 weeks, and then you can work on those while structural's still working on it. That's generally not how it works. But the access and fire supervisors might get on those projects earlier if it fits better in their schedule. So just in general, they're not always done well in advance of structural. We have released comments for projects that have funding deadlines or some critical element like that, where we've released the fire or access comments early. When we do that, it takes I bring in the whole team, whole design team, and talk about the protocol. Because if we don't, a lot of chaos ensues. What I mean by that is that if we release the Bluebeam session ID number and say access is complete, and the architect starts addressing the access comments, the rest of the team gets a hold of that session ID number, and then the structural or some of the other disciplines start reviewing the comments live as they're being entered, because that discipline's not done. And sometimes we've had people closing out comments or responding to comments before we've even finished the review of a particular discipline. Or even calling the reviewer saying, hey, I see this comment, it's shown on this other sheet. And we really should not be looking at comments before the plan reviewer is finished, because they might find that content somewhere else and go back and delete the comment, or the supervisor, part of their QA, might clear out or change the wording or delete some of the comments. And so we have to make sure there's order in the process, because when we do release that session ID early. So again, we've only done it on, usually impending funding deadline projects. And I've done it with a few of you in the past, but that's like, on average, like maybe one project a month, not of the 100 we get in a month in each office. So I think globally applying this to all projects wouldn't be that advantageous, because of the way our disciplines finish their review, nor would I think it'd be a little bit more chaotic process. Certainly on like increment projects, you get the session ID in the first increment, you've got it for the rest of the project. You can go in there and look at what's going on in increment 2 and 3 live as we're doing our plan review comments. But yeah, so that's just in general, Laura and the others that brought this issue up. So anyways, we've been doing on the LA Unified School District projects. We've had a lot of in-person Teams meetings through design development, 50% CD process, all the way through the whole project. So they're all understanding how it all works, and we put a lot of effort into educating those teams what the proper protocol is, if you will.
I guess that's what I'm kind of, I mean, this is my editorial, not the comment that came from others, is, you know, that's sort of the future, right, of our industry, is that we're all in a session working together on things as they come up. And I wonder if there's any consideration for it, a more collaborative design review, right? That might be one way to look at the LAUSD projects as similar, setting the tone for others going forward.
Yeah, the collaborative process, I think the collaborative process is pretty well defined for community college projects. There's an informal
No,
process.
I don't mean the collaborative process as defined. I mean a more collaborative process. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm getting to how we use it in that context. So in community colleges, we have an informal process and a formal one. The informal one's just meeting more frequently about it, but the formal collaborative process is we're reviewing the project at different stages in the design. And when we've been doing that in LAUSD, sort of a hybrid of all that, and it does put a lot more time demand on DSA if we're involved in the design process, right? Just like it does with your teams. And then it's important that we're reviewing and providing comments on final design, and that the comment you're getting is a final comment and that you're responding to that comment. We have found on the LAUSD one where we have comments we put in the set during the 100% DDs and 50% CD set that weren't addressed. They were never addressed. We received 100% CD, like major issues, and they're still not addressed. And it's like, well, why did we just all spend the last year or 7 months reviewing all your incremental submittals to us if they're not going to be addressed? So I think part of it is they weren't really ready to do that part of the design yet, and they were in a hurry. So we have to be careful and selective on how we're going to integrate with a collaborative process with the design teams.
That's fair.
Yeah, I want to add to that our collaboration with the LAUSD, beyond it being a pilot to see what we can do in an emergency, right? And that was in agreement with the school district and the design professional. So this isn't something that was just DSA's creation. It was like, how can we get from A to B with everyone buying in and on the process? And we're evaluating it from that perspective. But it was also done at a period of time when we had a code change and an intense amount of workload. And I just want all of you to be aware of how much of our staff time was really dedicated to getting that through quickly in a time when they also had a lot of other demands in working through the project. And so I think that it's difficult to fundamentally alter what we do or address more collaboration when we see the impact on staff and workload, and we don't have the ability just to hire more people to fundamentally change a process in that regard. But I will say that the LAUSD process does give us an opportunity to experience it, see the results, and look at all our processes in a different light. Whether or not that results in any change remains to be seen. So it's not a matter of resistance to change or being scared of what will happen. I think we're testing some of that now. And as Ron said, we don't need to have a pilot process that's just triggered in an emergency in which we need to use it. We can have little emergencies. And if that's the need, working with us to release those comments, with a demonstrated deadline, if needed, is something we can offer. without changing our process wholesale. Jason.
I was just going to provide a data point for what Laura was talking about. We had a project last year, excuse me, where it was fire life safety that had a comment in the set, and it was increment one, or there were no increments. It was site and buildings together, and fire life safety did finish the review early, and there were a couple big comments that affected the overall design. And had we seen it or had the reviewer reached out, there was about a 1 month difference between the fire life safety and the structural review. That would have been 1 month that we could have had to start coordinating and getting ready for the back check. So to me, that's what I thought of when Laura was talking about that kind of collaboration, that kind of how might that look?
Right, like you have an inherent exiting problem or something that is a redesign, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you, Jason, for that example. I think we can look at that to see if there's something that's fundamentally going to extend the project longer. Maybe having the fire life safety supervisor reach out and say, we have an issue here, and getting that guidance in advance. Obviously, we really hope to resolve a lot of those issues through the pre-app process and questions beforehand, for which we are all available. Doesn't always happen. We do also have a new AMM process, right, coming up. And so if there's a significant issue with access or whatever, we also hope that would be resolved in advance through this new process. But on issues like that, we can see if we can look and see if maybe there's some way to say, okay, this is something that may delay it for a really long time. We can get a head start. I'll discuss that with the regional managers. Making no promises because I don't do the plan review. So, Eric.
Yeah, just thanks, Ida. And I think you sort of touched on it, or we're dancing around it a little bit. Laura, I believe the core question or the core issue is duration of plan review, right? It's schedule driven, not necessarily collaboration driven, because I think some of Ron's concerns are the real-time collaboration creates schedule and workload issues. But if we can find some way to sort of lean this process down and shorten the plan review duration, that would meet the sort of intent of your request, right?
I think that's again, it wasn't necessarily my request, but I think that was what they were getting to, right? Is you see the 85% in two things and your client's breathing down your neck, and you just want to get into those and start resolving something. So, and believe me, I get it, your workload and everything, but we're all looking for ways to shorten durations.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
I'm sure I'm not the only one with a list. Am I the only one, Andrew?
Well, I have a topic, if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know there's the newer requirement for the 10% reduction in embodied carbon and or the path to provide EPDs. And I was just kind of curious where we think we might be headed in future code cycles as far as more school buildings having these requirements, and really like how that'll kind of mature over the years as far as the requirements and the reviews. Because a couple of concerns that I think about are the availability of materials that meet those requirements and or the procurement of those requirements as far as them being readily available, and ultimately how this really starts to impact schedules and cost on projects, especially if you're hard bidding work and a low bid contractor misses the EPDs or misses this, and then the bids come in and construction starts, and now we're in construction, and there's not really that great of an enforceable way to verify some of this. So was just kind of curious where we're headed with that. And I know it's important, but want to start to get an understanding of it and to be able to have some communications with our districts that we work with.
And I know, Eric, you probably want to add to this. I just want to clarify that, first of all, that's one of the reasons why we have the Cal Green Carbon Reduction Collaborative, is bringing those material suppliers to the table so that when we require something, we have the information to know whether or not that's out there. The other thing I want to address with that is that this is a statewide effort. So we do that also in conjunction with BSC so that the burden isn't placed only on schools. It's all on all non-residential construction. And, in our Cal Green Carbon Reduction Collaborative, we also have NGOs who are really involved in the carbon policy and trying to address it. And their goal globally, but nationwide, is really to try to simplify that process. And a lot of times the way that process gets simplified is greater adoption by a lot of manufacturers, newer technology. And we were in the process of addressing some of those issues when AB 130 came along and said, no, you can't do that. So we understand that these comments right now and these materials and methods right now are introductory. They're generally achievable. They're very low. And I understand and address the concern for the future, but they started low so that we could build that momentum. So, for us, our Cal Green requirements are always the floor. It's not always going to be the ceiling. So it appears to be the ceiling because we're really kind of in this new frontier, but it's demonstrated by everyone who was in that realm that it was achievable, with little to reasonable cost. And we wrote the regulations that way. Of course, we love the feedback out in the field because that validates whether or not our assumptions were correct. I do want to pass it to Eric now, and just to address of where we might be going with like carbon budget and stuff, that might be easier to address some of these issues.
Yeah, so as I had pointed out, obviously, the threshold, the limits for carbon are extremely high right now, right? I mean, it's hard for most materials not to meet the prescriptive requirements. And I think our goal initially was just to get the framework of the regulations down. But to your question, buddy, where are we going? I don't necessarily have a glass to see into the future or anything, but we do continuously meet with CARB. So CARB is also tasked with developing the framework, and they have actually a couple of pieces of legislation that they're working on, and they have regular public meetings to address this, and there are stakeholders. I think they've hired UC Berkeley and UC Davis to conduct the study for framework, and they're continuing to develop that. They're also, as you're probably aware, required to set up some regulations outside of Title 24 for reporting. And this really is what gets to maybe the core of your question. It is, are the development of these regulations and the lowering of those carbon limits prescriptively would be data driven. So as CARB gets EPDs submitted and that their reporting framework starts to be implemented, that data will be more available to us, and so we'll be able to lower the thresholds in a more informed way. But they are studying costs as well as to industry and businesses, as well as just trying to build the portfolio of both the number of materials that are required to submit EPDs, as well as just a volume of EPDs coming into CARB. They've been sort of targeted for that central role, but we'll be looking at it from a data-driven standpoint. Cost, public money, schools' public money is always of concern to us, and we recognize that and just want to be informed as we lower these thresholds. But all of that will, as I'd mentioned, be discussed as we get these data. We'll discuss it statewide with BSC in our carbon reduction collaborative. So I wouldn't expect an immediate change. As Ida mentioned, there's AB 130, which now limits us to just the triennial for substantial changes, substantive changes to CalGreen or any code. So, it's going to be on a triennial basis. It's probably a slow roll. So I wouldn't panic about a sudden shift in the carbon limits.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not
I will have
panicking.
to-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I will have to clarify that because, I don't want to say that there's a sudden shift, but you can see that technology advances pretty rapidly when it comes to sustainability measures, even advances in electric vehicle charging, lots of these processes, right? And so our rulemaking takes approximately 2 years, and now we're limited to doing that every 3 years. And so our previous regulations were established in concept, not in adoption, in 2022. They were in effect in 2024. Now we're limited, right, from doing it. So the next time you're going to see any change will be January 1st, 2029, when they are in effect. And as a result of that, you can imagine from 2022 to 2029 is 7 years. And the technology of all this information and requirements and study and advancement of products in 7 years can be a very, a lot can happen in that. So where we're always going to be modest in the sense of what the floor is into what can actually be absorbed by the market so that it's not at the high end, it's at the low end. I do want to clarify that by January 1st, 2029, there may be a significant shift in what we're doing in the regs, but it will still be what's accepted and what's moderate as a minimum floor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate hearing like the thresholds are going to be data driven so that the districts just aren't put in these impossible situations, and the design professionals as well, like to keep the projects going. What do you do? And I get that there's a lot of time that's elapsed, but typically what I see, when a framework gets put in place to establish these real low thresholds, that there are changes coming in the future. And it's great to hear that the data will be driving those minimum thresholds so that we're not put in impossible situations to deliver these projects.
And that's all the more reason for the collaborative, because it has a lot of voices, and that momentum gets built up as we're developing, as opposed to we develop it and then we receive comment. But anyone can participate in the collaborative. So I think what's important is that even just listening in and seeing and hearing from everyone that's informing, there's usually a lot, it's collaborative. So there's a really, there are a lot of people inform that process. I think starts to demystify, plus it's always important, plus the regulatory process is always important. We really do want to hear how this impacts schools real world from your perspective when the opportunity for public comment hits. Like Eric mentioned, right now, we're in the middle of public comment, even though our proposals aren't substantive because it's an intervening code cycle, except for maybe access, which is trying to, an objective of trying to align with state and federal law, recent changes to it. So like our CalGreen proposals right now aren't really substantive. But when at least now that when it's a triennial cycle and you get those notifications from us, so it's not going to always appear like it's ongoing. Right now, it's going to appear every 3 years. That's really an important time to really look at the regs, think about how that impacts your projects, make those comments to us. It's critical, right? We want to bring everyone along and be informed as well. We don't want to be reactive, or we don't want you to be reactive, because once they're adopted, they're adopted. So
yeah, I just think the districts might not understand what's coming yet. So I don't know that they'll understand until they experience some of it maybe firsthand. So
yeah. But now that maybe they've experienced some of this, I think it, with the help of this group, right, and even getting the word out, subscribing to our lists, knowing that a change is coming now that they've had some experience. Right before, it was really hard to even have a reference point from that experience, but now we do, right? And so I think that we're looking for engagement that's probably more based in real world experiences from the past. You know, when that comment period happens, it's going to be 5.5 years and not 7, because it takes a year, right, for the regs to be adopted. But we would be looking for that feedback. Eric.
Yeah, so one last thing. In terms of looking glass at the future, I obviously don't have that for the limits. What I can tell you, though, sort of early announcement, we had already received a petition from Carbon Leadership Forum along with the AIA for a carbon budget, as opposed to the comparative analysis between a similar building. So I think that's both been received both by PSC as well as DSA pretty favorably. I think it makes a lot of sense. So you can probably expect to see that in terms of a process change for the whole building life cycle analysis process.
Okay, great.
And the other options will still remain, right? Prescriptive and use of existing building. I mean, the thresholds may change, but we are really still committed to providing options that can achieve that goal. Alicia.
And I think DSA is going to try and help with educating stakeholders, which would be our design professionals in our districts. We're currently in the early stages of developing a embodied carbon training specifically for concrete with the was it
NRMCA.
Thank you. Yes. So we're collaborating with them on providing training to help facilitate that process of probably the procurement part that you were referring to. They have perspectives on making it easier for design professionals, and maybe talking also about process, maybe not waiting until the submittals required to be submitted to the contractor, but probably early on in the process, getting them on board and putting them on notice that this is something that's a project requirement, so they have feedback on that. We're going to try and bolster that training and provide our perspective on it, but hopefully we'll be getting that out in the fall.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's an excellent idea.
And this was also part of the, yeah, sorry for interrupting you, buddy. This is also part of the goal of our RSAs, is to be a point of contact that can, share that information, share where resources are, raise the questions with districts and design professionals who are probably not always, all that well versed on addressing these requirements, and trying to provide that assistance on a project by project basis, not actually doing the work, but, demystifying it. That's part of the goal of why we have the regional sustainability architects as well.
Great, thank you. That's really a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. Next on the list, Andrew.
Yeah, just circling back to one of Laura's comments, I believe you discussed escalation costs, 50% of replacement value. Is that?
Yeah, Harlan mentioned bringing on the a new RFP for the outside consultants, and I just wanted to make sure that there's general agreement on the escalation percentages and point in time when we're looking at those 50% replacement cost calculations, because we have some like looking at it now, and our estimators are escalating it to midpoint of construction. So I don't know exactly what all the issues are, but as they come on board, or the next group comes on board, just having a clear understanding of how we're agreeing to when we're escalating to, and what the agreed upon escalation will be. Is that a negotiation with the estimator? Is it, because it's significant, especially on a long tail project. I'm not asking for an answer. It's just an issue to put into the discussion, I think.
Buddy, I'm going to point to Harlan just in case he has a comment to that for Laura, and then I'll go to you. Go ahead, Harlan.
Yeah, so there are really a couple of milestones where we could consider your cost estimates. Of course, when you submit your project, that's a cost estimate that's required so we can calculate fees and determine the scope of the project. Really, the next opportunity to look at the construction costs and evaluate between the construction of the new scope and the existing building would be once you get your bids back from the contractors. And I think that's an appropriate point of time to look and determine, if we're comparing apples to apples. And I think that's what we've agreed to as regional offices. That would be, an appropriate time to reevaluate costs. And then the third point in time would be at the end of the project when DSA 168, the final construction cost is submitted to DSA. Really there aren't any other points in time that we could, that makes sense to evaluate construction costs and the escalation from the time of submittal to the time of the final construction.
Buddy.
Yeah, I was just going to add what Laura's touching on. I mean, the escalation piece, I mean, it's a crystal ball. And I've actually had various like PMs and CMs reaching out to me like, hey, what happens when we go over 50%? Because it looks like, our project was shelved for a few years and we were under that threshold. And now we've gone out to bid and now we're over. What's that mean? I'm like, well, you need to schedule a meeting with Ron probably right away and go over sub options. So I kind of wonder if you're going to start to see maybe more of those just with all the escalation we've dealt with over the last 3 or 4 years, and projects that are now getting funded and moving forward are probably now potentially finding themselves above the 50% threshold when they thought they were more in the 40-45%. So I was kind of wondering, like, at some point, do you obtain the plan approval based upon what the assumptions were at plan approval, not what bids might come in for 3.5 years later? Because a lot of times the projects do go on hold for that long. And it's nothing substantially has changed in the scope or the approach of the project that changes things. It's just now things cost more. So it's I don't know where that goes.
Right. And so at the time that you're getting your bids for construction, we would look at what that bid cost is and allow you to reevaluate the existing building, the replacement cost of that existing building.
Okay.
And those should be escalating at the same rate.
Yeah, I get that. It's just, I guess it comes back to, it's another round of work to do when you already did it once, and now it's just escalated equally. It's not like scope was added or the existing building changed, or so. Yeah.
Diane.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to what's already been mentioned is, we do recognize that oftentimes projects don't always go straight to bid after you have the approval. And the language in IREB4 as it exists now does not permit the escalation of the original replacement costs. The language in the existing IREB4 says if you're reevaluating at the point of the 102 IC, you're using that original cost. But we recognize that there are certain circumstances, like you raised, Buddy, when it's been 2 or 3 years and an escalation would be appropriate. So we actually are working on an internal document to help provide guidance as to what circumstances are appropriate. But certainly, like you said, if you find yourself in that situation, reach out to your regional manager. And that's kind of how the IR was written, is that, for these situations where we're very close to that 50% mark, we want to work closely with you and take a practical approach to it.
Makes sense.
I think I missed that, but I'll follow up with Buddy. We had a transformer blow over on
no.
19th and T, so we're all in the dark. That line.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
You guys are still up, but that's good.
I'm sorry to hear that, Laura. Well, we did, I believe, conclude that. Oh, well, Ron, go ahead. We didn't conclude that discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Chris was going to jump in or not, but we have some clients, not saying those of you on the call, we have some clients that really cook the books, so to speak, and try and get their buildings at 49.9%. And you're arguing about this with the design team, and at the end of the day, you let it through for plan approval, but then their bids come in way higher, and they may have just gone to bid, and you're like, so we're gonna bring them back to the table and say, look, we need to reevaluate this, but we always will let you evaluate to the same escalation point in time. It doesn't make sense to compare the replacement value to something 3 years ago to new construction today. So it should always be able to be escalated at the same point. But that's why we don't just stop at plan review, buddies, because if the 102 comes in really high, the bids come in high, then we're going to ask it to be reevaluated. We are working on putting together a procedure. We did draft one about 7-8 months ago, and we decided to go back to drawing board a little bit on it, but it's going to tackle this issue a little bit more directly. I don't know if we are ultimately going to leave it in the procedure or if we're going to roll it into IREB 4 or have it a separate document to kind of help guide clients in how to deal with confirming cost at the bid point. And then
Is there appetite for changing the approach completely in code? The 50% being the way we handle this? Because it really isn't the best way, right? I think we all agree with that.
Well, I'm sure Diane and I will jump in here, but we've had discussions about maybe going to a work area method instead. I will say that many of the other state jurisdictions, it's a 25% trigger. DSA is the only one at 50%. So we're pretty lenient on it. Other jurisdictions would require a full rehab at a much lower level. CSUs, UCs, many of the other jurisdictions.
We've actually raised from that 25% limit to 50%. I would believe it was in the early 90s was something that was provided to me. So we have raised that up.
Yeah. So, but
I guess I wasn't suggesting raise or lower. I was suggesting maybe there's a better way, right?
Yeah. So Laura, we've kicked around work area methods. So you look at the percentage of the area of the floor plan being modified and using that as a threshold, because that would be a defined quantity that wouldn't change over time. During the bidding process is what I mean. So then we would have to get into defining what's in the work area, like replacing carpet paint, not work area. Replacing ceilings, I don't know, we'd have to figure it out, but certainly rearranging walls in a space would be work area. So I think that would be a better gauge, because then you would know at really DD or schematic level, you would know we're going to be under 50 or over 50. We can build the rehab into the job and not it be a mystery down the road. And 6 months when you come to DSA, you could define that right up at the front of the project. So we've kicked that around. We will certainly bring it to this team when we make those proposals.
I think what's happening is that, nothing is off the table still. I know that we've been addressing this existing buildings idea for a long time. And then, of course, other urgent issues take up our time, because really trying to define an alternate method is really a intensive effort. I do want to stress that's part of the reason why as well, in the interim with the situations we have, is that the cost estimator is a benefit to us and to you because it doesn't put DSA in an adversarial position. It puts it in a factual position. And so they're there to assist you in achieving to the end result of your project instead of haggling and debating costs. And so, that in itself is a little bit of an improvement, so that we can get to the solution quicker. Based on a set of facts, as opposed to, having us evaluate those costs. As Ron said, there are some individuals who cook the books. And so this cost estimator helps us with that. But it's not off the table. I think we, have a lot of balls that we are juggling. I hope part of that was demonstrated today. And I'm going to continue to push for the discussion. I don't have an idea or a promise of when that will resolve. Ideally, I'd like to explore various options before we bring them forth for discussion and address pros and cons. So you can see that there's been some ideas, but there hasn't been anything really that's put forth yet as a proposal. But always thank you for bringing it up again, and you are welcome to continue bringing it up to address that pressure, that's for sure. Is next item on the list, is there another?
Yes, I believe details previously approved. Laura, you mentioned that, the comments with the change in plan reviewer.
I feel like I'm like the whiner here. Please,
Well,
no,
you just represent an
me.
important group, Laura. You just,
Yeah.
you're bringing forth the issues that's the whole purpose of your representation.
I think there was a lot of discussion about details previously approved, now getting a whole new set of plan review comments. And if there's a mechanism or a way other than dragging out past projects to show where they were previously approved. So that was, I think we all know this, right? You get a ceiling detail approved in 3 out of 4 offices, and then, another office maybe as a new plan reviewer, maybe is not incorrect, but maybe isn't the level of detail we need on drawings. And people were wondering if we could think down the road of a AI sorted library where you could find, find previously approved details and not spend the time either on your plan review or B, on our response. It's a bigger issue, but it's an ongoing one, I think.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. This is one that I drew the short straw on this one, but it's a good discussion here. So you're not the only one that I've heard this from. I've heard this from every architect that has their own library of typical details, and every one of those typical detail libraries all have subtle differences as well in the presentation, even the comment on some of the stuff. Typical details, DSA prior approval doesn't imply a PC level review of the detail. We don't get into that, particularly with the differences in presentation or in some content in that in here. Myself and the supervisors, we want the plan reviewers to focus on site-specific items and safety. Unfortunately, some of them go after the low-hanging fruit and provide a comment on typical details in there. Supervisors do try to catch this. Sometimes, though, the comments on the typical details are applicable. You might have a case where a typical detail that was approved in a prior application is now being used in a different condition. Let's say maybe the building drift was bumped up to a 2% drift now instead of the typical lower limit that doesn't require specific detailing to it. Now the plan reviewer's got to look at these details and say, okay, you're going with the higher drift on this. it needs to be shown that the ceiling can accommodate that higher drift and it can be accommodated in that detail. So you can see different conditions where they may be applied based on the site-specific location for it. I worked in design for quite a few years and was up against the gun. There was a lot of times that I used typical in a detail that may not fully match the condition on where it's applied. So sometimes a condition that's noted as a typical detail needs some additional massaging to apply to the condition that is being used in there. We see cases like that too. Look, if the comment's not appropriate or not warranted and the design team disagrees and wants to revise, discuss it further with the plan reviewer. If it's not going anywhere and you need to elevate it to the supervisor, elevate it to the supervisor. But we've heard that before, and we just can't get to that level of a PC library of details with all the different firms that are applying and submitting stuff to us. Buddy?
Yeah. Personally, I really like what DSA has done in regards to the ceiling details that you have available for chipboard ceilings and suspended ceilings. I think that's really helpful. I think that's really smoothed out the comments that we used to work through on those. And I get there's going to be project specific details that are going to vary site to site, project to project. But what you might want to think about would be, well, what other types of standard details do the DSA plan checkers spend a lot of time reviewing, and then maybe consider a similar thing what you did with the ceiling details. And the one that comes to mind is the mounting height, the 88 mounting height, because I have that in our standard detail library, just like you said. And every time we use it, there's always like one more little dimension that's just a little bit off from this one plan checker adds this one or adds that one. So like maybe the details that take a lot of your time going back and forth on little things, those might be the ones you might want to look at expanding the approach that you have on the ceilings for those. And there might not be very many of those, but it will really help streamline the things that truly are standard project to project.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I do want to caution, of course, that, there will be, if there is something that's addressed on a standard process, it does need to be reviewed at least once every 3 years for changes that may have occurred in rulemaking. That's especially true for access, because while we understand things like reach ranges and stuff are building blocks, I do always want to caution when it comes to access, because it's how it's always designed in the space, that just something, that's the design of the space could affect where a clear floor space exists that doesn't trigger compliance, right? So us in the access world aren't always fans of the standard details for access, but I do understand that there's fundamental ones that don't typically change. But there does need to be an address that every code change, there needs to be, like our PCs are reviewed thoroughly, every code change. So it's kind of the same thing. It's not a program that can be continuous and static by any means. Thank you. Ron. Oh, wait. Jason first. He's one.
All right, let me take my hand back down. So talking about typical details, I wanted to ask a related but different question. Is there, headquarters, regional manager wise, is there a philosophy or movement toward making typical details apply specifically to a project? Over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot more comments to update our typicals to be very specific. First example that comes to mind is steel base plate. So you got a HSS column to a base plate, and we have a lot of different column sizes, the different plates that go along with those. We've been asked to line out or to revise the table so that only the columns that apply to the project are now included. And similar instances with foundation, plumbing interactions, where we might have a condition during construction and we have a generic detail to capture that, But if we don't know that specifically up front and we refine it, we update those constraints, we now have a CCD in the construction phase when that comes up. So just kind of global question, is there a philosophy toward moving away from typical details to project specific only details?
Ron, I will see if you can answer that question since you have your hand up next anyways. So you can address both what you were going to say and perhaps Jason's comment as well.
Well, we haven't given any direction to our staff to not allow typical details. There's been no direction we've been giving our staff to change how drawings are put together. We our desire is always to hire structural engineers and architects and fire life safety officers that have come from private practice, so they understand how a set of drawings goes together and understands the things you're dealing with on a regular basis. So and what you're saying, I agree, like with what you're saying, that if you want a pipe going through the bottom of a footing detail on your set of plans, because that might come up, but you don't know where there might be one right now, then leave it on there. That's fine. If you have a plan reviewer telling you to remove it, just tell them no. My set of plans. If they resist, then elevate it to the supervisor. If you don't elevate it to the supervisor, it's that we won't know about it, right? As a supervisor or leadership, we don't know about it. So yeah, raise it to them. Look, it's not this. The plan reviewer is not going to retaliate if you keep bringing things to their supervisor. That's just normal order of business here. They're used to it. That's what happens. So that's how I would handle that. And then I see Chris has his hand up. Chris, why don't you go over on that topic, and then I can jump into the separate thing.
Yeah. I was just going to add, Jason, I see your point on it too, but we also do see the other side of it where we see holdover of a set that's initially set up in schematic where somebody was just pulling typical details out of a library as the design was going, and those details no longer apply as the design was finalized. And those kinds of items that are not going to be used, that just create confusion on the construction site. Hey, where do I use this detail? That's more along the lines of the things that we're wanting to see removed that aren't or won't be applicable to the project.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring this up, Laura, this topic, because it goes both ways, right? Like I have plan reviewers that have marked up a particular architectural firm's ceiling details every single project it comes in, and it's like obvious mistakes, and so the architect just keeps going to their standard pool of typical details and keeps dropping them on the next set, and we mark them up, and then a couple months later that same architect submits the same details and our plan reviewer marks them up again. And some of our plan reviewers are a little more savvy. They just save all of their comments for that architect in a file, and when that project comes in, they just paste all the same comments on the detail, and it drives them, and all of it drives us crazy, it drives them crazy, and it's like, so part of it is, it's on both sides, and I think the design profession can do better at updating their typical details, their base library, so that they make the corrections to move forward on projects to limit. Because it's a waste of all of our time when that happens. And then if we are marking up things that you don't believe should be changed, you just need to put a comment back to the reviewer. Explain why you believe it shouldn't be done, and if they may agree, and then you move on. But if they don't, raise it to the supervisor. I spent a whole year rejecting intake projects for ceiling details not being correct, and forced them to change them before I'd taken their projects. That was my mission a whole year as a supervisor. And by the end of the year, the same firms were still submitting the same details from the beginning of the year. And I realized that I'm just not going to change the industry for some professionals. And so I had to, it was the year of the ceilings.
We need to get Ron a hobby or something.
Well, he was a supervisor then. We have given him the hobby of regional manager. So.
Ceilings are not falling in San Diego. Let's just say that.
I think what's also important to know is that oftentimes we hear that clients are hesitant to reach out and address issues, right, that frustrate them because they fear that DSA is going to retaliate. There's still some of those myths, I believe, that are out there. And so I think in this realm, while we appreciate the comment, right, and we have a discussion about it and ways and solutions that we can both address the issue, I think it's important, like Ron said, that if there is a concern, to push back a little bit and raise the issue if it's critical and not have a fear of retaliation or anything like that. We're here to work through these issues. We have our reasons, right? And we'd like to explain those reasons further. And sometimes if there isn't a comment to the supervisor or someone else, there isn't that exchange for that reason to provide greater understanding. But by the same token, as Ron said, it does also necessitate change not only within DSA, but within our own firms, right? To ensure that we don't perpetuate the issue. It's both of us that need to work on that. Go ahead, Ron. I can see you want to say something.
Josh, myself, and Larry, his partner, we had got together like 3 or 4 years ago and pulled up their typical details, and we had the same discussion. And I think, Josh, you ended up modifying your details because you're getting a lot of repeat comments, but you only accepted only the comments you believe need to change. You changed them to help limit the comments that our plan reviewers were putting on your set. So I know we've tried to work through those on a one-on-one with a particular firm.
Yeah, we did do that, and your frustration in seeing the same the same mistakes on the same details is kind of the same as our frustration with our own guys for seeing the same comments, knowing that they grabbed them from an old set instead of grabbing the updated set of details. So, I mean, that's the industry side of it. It's not like we're doing it just to piss you off. It's just that, a junior guy grabs an old set because it's just like this one and doesn't update the details. And it drives me absolutely batty.
All right, we have about 20 minutes. I'm pleased that we allowed this much time for these questions. It seems like the conversations have progressed. Do we have another item on the list?
Yes, one more item, and that would be the 48 hours to resolve a comment, intake comments.
Yeah, so I drew the short straw on this one. So we have a couple of publications out there, PR 1804, which is the submittal of projects to DSA, and PR 1703, which is more specific to intake. PR 1703 states that if the plan is rejected or if the plan is missing something at intake, then we have every right and authority to send it back without providing any time to bring the set up to our standards. And it's really subjective of our intake architects and engineers. They have the ability to provide you with a couple of extra days, an extra day or so to submit something that's minor and minor in nature. I did talk to our intake architect at length about this issue, and he said that a lot of times what happens is the project may require all 3 disciplines to review, and we only get the DSA one checked for structure and fire, and it does need access review. And something like that, I don't know that it can be addressed within 48 hours if it's a more substantial amount of money that's needed to be submitted to DSA. If it's something that the architect can cover within 48 hours, sure, we'll hold off on rejecting the project. But if it takes a long time to get a school board to authorize a check and to cut a check. We have other projects that are waiting in line. You know, Ron had talked about how we schedule our work. When a project comes into intake, we've got, you know, a couple of days where we can review the project and move it forward, or initiate a dialogue with the design professional of how we can get it up to the standard where we can release it to the plan reviewers. Our plan reviewers, they're waiting for the projects. They have a schedule that's pretty well defined. Setting something back a week or a couple of weeks because we're waiting on a check, we just can't do that, because we have all of our plan reviewers, they're waiting for that project to come through. And what happens if we have a project that gets stalled for 2 weeks? That plan reviewer doesn't have work to do, so they have to be assigned other work. It really scrambles our scheduling. And, you know, we've worked really hard with this 6 to 8 week appointment system so that we can get on projects as soon as they come in. I think that's the biggest thing right there is, you know, we really can't wait for projects to be complete. And, you know, maybe there's something that we can do with our regulations or our not regulations, but our procedures, that we can allow for a 48 hours, a defined 48 hours. But as it stands now, we don't have anything. And so it's just.
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
point, Harlan, is
Yeah.
it's, nobody is thinking you should get away with 2 weeks of
Yeah.
anything. I think it's, you know, some of the intake comments, I would say, and I've been in this a long time, so a lot of iterations of intake at DSA are rival plan review comments or former plan review comments. So I think people were just talking about the 24-hour, can we make this right? We forgot to include one sheet of the calcs or something by accident, nothing like 2 weeks. And so that seems, like you said, is very discretionary. And so is there a way to make it less discretionary, that if you could resolve in 24 hours, then we'll still intake your project? That's all. It's not at all thinking we should wait around for much longer than that to complete the intake. But I hear what you're saying about the policy and procedures.
Yeah, and so the intake comments rivaling plan review comments. I mean, that really shouldn't be happening. The intake architect and engineer should be looking for completeness. Is there enough to review? And there really shouldn't be any plan review comments at all, other than, you know, hey, you're missing sheet A5 and it's on your index of drawings, or you're missing, you know, these calculations for these columns. You know, could you provide those quickly? That should be the extent of the intake comments. And anything else, you know, they're not going to be going through the calculations and seeing if the column works. That's up to the structural plan reviewer.
Chris?
I just wanted to add a little more to it. The key thing is we're looking for a complete set that can be efficiently reviewed through here. And the intake portion is a very quick snapshot of things. And it's left to their discretion with their experience and what they've seen is, can the things that could be asked for and picked up in a short 48-hour period make this more efficient and complete for the review? I've had cases where I've had a project that has been deemed incomplete because the structural forces were off by a factor of 25%, and the team has come back and said, we can fix that in 2 days. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But the problem is with a lot of these projects is because the intake does a very quick snapshot, it's what's beneath the surface that they're not necessarily catching. And if we let something like that through, or something with those few items fixed, there's likely still a lot of significant items that weren't caught in intake or needed a deeper dive to figure out what's going on with it. And then we're getting into a case where we provide the comments to it, and then in the V2 set, maybe that's the first set that we're seeing the full complete design. And then we've got a lot of other new things that were added in that V2, in that first back check, that now DSA is providing additional comments. And then I'm going to be fielding calls. DSA's taken a second bite at the apple. They're still plan reviewing the same stuff that they already commented on. And it's because they didn't see all the material in the first place. So we hear the concerns with intake, and yes, it's seen as subjective by everybody. There's a lot of people that can say, yeah, I can fix all this stuff. It's not a problem. But it really needs to be a case that we need that complete set. And sometimes somebody saying they can fix it in that short period of time, there's a lot more going on, and it's only going to be really a very brief fix. It's not going to be a full fix, if you understand. And it's just going to be chasing its tail throughout plan review. It's going to be in back check for a much longer period of time, and everybody's going to be unhappy with that, wondering why the timeline has gotten so extended on that as well.
Eric?
Yeah, so I want to rewind back to Alicia's presentation on the RSAs and just mention that certainly you might be seeing intake comments that are generated from one of the RSAs because they're doing an inclusion review, right? They shouldn't be doing the deep dive. But what this new process is driven the need for is for us to standardize and educate these new staff in a new role, in a new program with some criteria. So we, for sustainability, we are establishing some of those criteria. And I will also say that you may start to see some comments, while it might be missing information, it's something that you can add throughout the plan review process and certify as the architect of record that, through the plan review. So there's actually another category that's being introduced as part of the RSA, is that these are things that, we recognize you might be missing. For instance, it might be you don't have, your landscape architect didn't do a shade tree calculation or something, right? We're allowing those to go through, even though it's not complete, right? One could argue it's not complete, but we also don't want to slow down your design process and recognize that these are things that you can pick up throughout the process. So what I would say is, if you are getting comments, and you can share this with your stakeholders and constituency, if you're getting comments related to sustainability that you feel, during the intake process are cumbersome, please immediately reach out to either Alicia or I. We are setting this program up, but we want to set it up for success, not just for DSA, but primarily for our stakeholders. And, we see architects as part of that group. So if you're seeing out of the ordinary comments, consider it. But if it's certainly troublesome to you, then reach out to us. We'll see if we can't get it addressed.
But to confirm, Eric, you're not going to reject a project because sustainability is not complete, correct? So you're going to get the comment, but it won't be give it to us in 48 hours, and it will be rejected, correct?
Yeah, I guess I want to be careful not to issue broad. If you haven't done any energy calculations and you have no compliance forms in your drawings, this falls under what we're calling CGE, Cal Green and Energy. We're most likely going to reject you because you haven't done you're not submitting your energy documents. But if it's a shade tree, as I mentioned, shade tree calculation, we're going to let that one go through and let you to pick it up throughout the process. It'll be verified on the backside of the project. Verified that it's in the set. We're not looking for the details.
Thank you for that clarity. We can discuss further, some parameters that perhaps give your staff an indication of, if this isn't here, it might, it will likely be rejected. If this is not here, we can explore that. The problem is that anytime we make a list, then the next level of the list gets challenged, right? And I think it's always starts to begin a little bit of a slippery slope. But if anything, just to even develop some consistency, there may be something that we discuss internally that starts to get level set the requirements across the regional offices. That's always our goal, is to level set across the regional offices. And I think that that's where we want to be alerted where there's significant issues. Plan check comments as part of intake rejection, that's totally a plan check comment. That's one. Minor items not giving an opportunity, but they're truly minor, raise those issues. We'll always, we know that this is a concern. It's been raised over and over, and so we will continue to discuss it internally as well. Harlan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you schedule a pre-application meeting and ask your questions early on before you submit your project, some of these issues can be resolved before you even submit. So I always encourage for every project to schedule a pre-app, talk to our supervisors, see if the scope that you're proposing requires review by all three disciplines or not. Flag big items that are going to cause problems, through plan review. Always schedule a pre-app. They're free and they're available to you and your clients.
Thank you, Harlan. We do have 10 minutes left. I didn't know if there was any other issue that was not brought to our attention that wants to be raised with anyone. Okay. Oh, there we go, Eric.
Why not chime in? Just something real quick. In talking to some of my fellow geotech engineers, this topic came up. With school projects, we don't have a step where we are actually asked for a formal plan review letter after we've prepared our geotechnical report. You go through all the design process and then you go into construction, and oftentimes on the commercial side of things out in cities and other building officials and whatnot will ask for a geotechnical engineer to review the civil and the particularly the foundation plans to make sure that it's consistent with the geotechnical report that was prepared. And we aren't always as intimately involved in the design process as, say, the architect is and the civil engineer, and they work a lot together. And they may not be consulting us as geotechnical engineers. And so things may or may not get appropriately incorporated into the plans. So it's a very important element to do that geotechnical plan review before going into construction. And this becomes a little bit more of a problem also in some of the design build delivery method, because we are often retained by the school district, and then we aren't actually incorporated as a active member of the design team during the design build process, because that's, some other contractor and they've got their own design team, and then, we aren't as intimately involved. So I'm wondering if there might be a more formalized process that, DSA might incorporate into the design flow that brings the geotechnical engineer into actually providing that plan review service during, as part of the approval process. And in my opinion, it's actually one of the most important documents that we put together, because at that point, what the site conditions are, and what the building is going to be, and you can really review and see, did they interpret things correctly? And it's our last shot at getting it right before it goes into construction. So, it's a topic that's kind of geocentric, but I throw it out there for consideration. And, it's nothing that can be answered at this point, but something for future conversation.
Chris?
Thanks for bringing it up, Eric. When I was working as a supervisor, and I know I've got some plan reviewers here, it's probably not as consistent as I hope, but my supervisors have also looked for when we've done a QA review, that we have gotten far enough into the report. Usually there's a report that's indicating that the geotechnical engineer should provide the items, the review, and the letter that you've indicated here. And we've usually added that on an initial plan review comment in there to get that in and make sure that letter is provided prior to the approval of it. But I don't know if that's a consistent approach amongst all of my plan reviewers or even with all of the offices, but we are somewhat on the same page. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, some of the policies of the past, like the DSA 109 was a great, you know, procedure that was developed to give that consistency of geotechnical engineering all the way through. And you might think about creating a similar kind of format of a form and a requirement, and that way it gets codified and it's uniformly followed across the board.
Great. Thank you for those suggestions and the topic, Eric. I appreciate it. I am making a list of some of the items that we will continue to discuss further, and so I put that on the list. David.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just chiming in, going to change gears here a little bit. Representing all the project inspectors, I want to pay a huge compliment to the DSA staff who contributed to the improvements to the recertification process. I just went through it a couple of weeks ago myself, and it was a breeze. As far as no hiccups with accessing the material, accessing the presentations that we need to study prior to the exam. Erica was very, very helpful with a question I had regarding an access to, and it was on me. It wasn't anything that DSA had done, but it's really, really going well. I've surveyed a lot of the project inspectors in our ACIA group and a few that I know that are not part of them. Everybody has glowing reviews of it. So I hope I don't leave anybody out, but the people I know are Erica, Diane Gould, I believe is part of it. And I know Ryan's no longer with him, but with you, but Ryan Huxley was really great. And I believe, is it Tina Freshour?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I want to make sure everybody gets a big pat on the back for this, because really great job, big improvement, and I think it's really going to go a long ways to retention and the improvements, and the PowerPoint presentation and the exam really accomplished what the statute calls for, was to certify that the inspectors are knowledgeable with the updates to the California Building Code. So it's a big win for everybody. So for me personally, and the inspectors I represent, thank you guys.
Thank you, David. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, as I started the meeting off, Diane has a whole new team. So, you know, our goal is to have more improvements coming and really try to, you know, modernize and address the project inspector program, the lab acceptance program for today, so, you know, for today's environment. So thank you for that. And Diane, I'm sure you're pleased to have heard that in this forum.
Absolutely,
as well.
Diane did. And Diane was really great to communicate with, and you got to hang on to her.
Yeah. And so if and so
I'll pay you later, David.
Yeah, exactly. Checks in the mail, I'm sure.
Thank you.
But David, you know, by the same token, right? Because change is coming, because we're looking to really reevaluate the programs to get younger folks in, working with community college districts to develop some kind of on-site role, right? Like, we're looking at a multitude of elements in this program that, as it gets developed, we do still need feedback on what works, what doesn't work, right? As it moves ahead. So thank you for your feedback today, but I want that engagement happening as the program shifts moving forward.
If there's anything I can do to help, please call me.
All right, thank you. So I am not going to call for any other more questions because it's 11:59. And before I toss it to Andrew to wrap things up, I hope you enjoyed the extended time for discussion today. We're really trying to balance a little bit more of what we provide to you so that we're not just always talking to you and having this engagement. I'm pleased with the way it turns out. I really do want you, between this and the next time we meet, is when there's an issue you want to discuss, make note of it so that when the call comes out to bring these topics forward, you're not brainstorming right at that moment. You've really thought about it, moving along. Listen to your constituency groups, report back on what you heard today, get further feedback. Part of this is to hold us accountable with progress, and I hope that some of the reasons that or some of the concerns that you raised today we weren't just coming back saying, nah, that's not going to happen. I mean, my goal is to really still look deeper. And, in raising those issues, it's also perhaps thinking of a solution that is a part that you can own as well, so that if there is change that happens, that it moves forward collaboratively and not so much like, we don't like this, so you change it type thing. So that's where I look for in this engagement. So again, thank you for all of you who spoke up. I hope, again, we had a PSCC that was worth your time. And I know that here at DSA, we appreciate it. And so with that, I am going to toss it to Andrew to close out the meeting.
Thank you, Ida. And just echo Ida's sentiment. If you have any concerns or issues, just please send me an email. My inbox is open 24/7. So I'm always here for you. And thank you again for your time. Look forward to our next meeting, which will probably be in September or November. Look for an email in the next few months for that. And thank you again.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, bye.